UFC 269 this Saturday has some amazing fights. But the main event and the main fight of the card of this last pay-per-view of the UFC in 2021 cannot be a better match than the lightweight championship match between Charles "The Bronx" Oliveira versus Dustin "The Diamond" Poirier. And this fight's gonna be amazing. It's also sadly one of those fights where you don't want to see the other guy lose. Though those guys are both amazing, talented, great fighters, humble, and very entertaining to watch. You just don't want to see them lose. It's like Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. You just don't want to see any of them lose. However, let's dissect both of them, their winning streaks, their advantages, their strong sides, and who is going to be more favorite to win. Dustin Poirier is a small betting favorite in this match, and I believe it is rightfully so. However, I don't think it's gonna be just walk in the park for him. So let's look at both of the fighters. Both fighters came full circle, lost in the early in their careers, reinvented themselves, and are on a huge winning streaks and defeated one of the best fighters in the lightweight division. They literally, both of them are very dangerous and literally solid. They have over 50 fights between the two of them. It's crazy. And Charles Oliveira also holds the record for the most submissions in the lightweight division. That's crazy. So let's look at the fights they had and what also is the advantage of them. Charles Oliveira started his career losing to likes of Max Holloway, Anthony Pettis, Paul Felder. This is also one of the reasons why Justin Gaethje called out Charles Oliveira and told that he doesn't have a strong heart. He doesn't have the will to push through when you fight the top opposition. However, after those losses, Charles Oliveira reinvented himself, went on a crazy winning streak, defeated some solid guys, and in his last 3 fights, he defeated Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, and Michael Chandler. But let's look who was the main opposition or the top dogs, as we call them, that Charles Oliveira has faced. It's gonna be Max Holloway, Paul Felder, Anthony Pettis, Tony Ferguson, and Michael Chandler. And out of those 5 top dogs, Charles Oliveira lost to 3 of them. So that is the level of the opposition he faced and that he had to overcome. However, the Tony Ferguson, amazing fighter, I love Tony, who doesn't, right? But Charles Oliveira defeated him when he was already on the downslope of his career, when he was coming off that huge loss to Justin Gaethje, and we all knew what's gonna happen with Tony. And then he defeated Michael Chandler in a match where he almost got finished. And we could see that even though Charles Oliveira possesses some great knockout power, he gets comfortable with those front leg kicks. However, he lacks some of those boxing fundamentals. He doesn't move his head, and that's where the Michael Chandler almost decapitated him. So I believe that in this regard, Dustin Poirier can take him apart very easily. But also, let's look now on the other side of the octagon. Let's look at Dustin Poirier and his career. Earlier in his career, he also lost to some big names, and he lost to Conor McGregor, for example. But after that loss, he reinvented himself, and look at the names he defeated. Dustin Poirier, after losing to Conor McGregor, defeated Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Conor McGregor, Dan Hooker. Those are literally household names. All of those fighters will eventually be in the Hall of Fame. So the level of competition that Dustin has faced, and not only faced but defeated, you cannot compare that to the competition that Charles Oliveira has faced. Charles Oliveira has much easier fights in his career, and when he faced these top dogs, he lost in half of them. So I believe that Dustin Poirier has a much bigger advantage in this regard, because also the level of the ground fighters that Dustin has faced, which was mostly Khabib Nurmagomedov, is much bigger than the level of strikers that the Charles has faced. He faced some good strikers in Paul Felder and Max Holloway, and he lost terribly. But then the closest solid striker to Dustin that Charles has faced was Michael Chandler. And Michael Chandler is not the greatest of the strikers. Of course, he has some good right hand and good left hook, but that's it. He's not a great striker. So in this regard, Dustin Poirier has a great advantage in terms of the similar opposition they have faced and the fight they have to prepare for. However, Charles Oliveira has a very good ground game and submission game, and we've seen how Khabib manhandled Dustin. Well, Khabib manhandled everyone, but we could see some small holes in Dustin's game. So I believe if Charles manages to take Dustin down, he can finish him very easily. But I don't believe that Charles has wrestling and takedowns on a level of, for example, Glover Teixeira. So I don't believe that it's going to be as easy as we think it's going to be for Charles. As there was a great quote already circling on the internet that said that Charles has more ways to win, and that's why he should be the favorite. However, I believe that Dustin has more opportunities to win. And what I mean by that? Well, simply, if Charles doesn't manage to take Dustin down, then what can he do? He has some great knockout power, but the level of striking expertise Dustin has and the strikers he faced, I mean, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway couldn't take Dustin out in striking. Those are literally the best strikers in the UFC history, So let's be real. So if the fight stands on the feet, Dustin can dominate very easily. And this is where the difference comes. If Charles has solid takedowns, such as Khabib, that basically he can just decide to take the fighters down and they cannot do nothing about it, then he can win. However, I believe Charles doesn't have such a solid wrestling. So I think he will have to look for takedowns when in the clinch, when they are facing the cage and in all those scenarios. And if he doesn't manage to take Dustin down there, I think Dustin will take him apart. I would like to hear what you guys think and who thinks gonna win. I have Dustin as my favorite. However, in the back of my head, I keep the thought that the Charles can finish him very easily if it goes to the ground. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.